Hi, I'm Ramona Werst, and I am so excited to bring to you a really favorite recipe of all of our viewers, and this is my famous bread and butter pickles with black gold garlic. This recipe is going to be in my cookbook, Black Gold Garlic Recipes by Ramona, and it's coming soon. I wanted to share with you this exciting recipe because it is so easy and so tasty, makes wonderful gifts. These little pickles are the most sweet, yet a little tart pickle. They go great on sandwiches, alone. You can use them, chop them up and use them as relish. They're just so delicious. For your ingredients, you will need black gold garlic. I use black gold garlic coffee blackening spice and black gold garlic powder. This is what a head of the black gold garlic looks like. You'll add the minced black gold garlic last into your pickling solution. Some other spices that I'm using are mustard seed and turmeric. Turmeric's also really good for your health, and celery seed. Sugar, sweet onion, apple cider vinegar, and I use Bragg's, and also canning and pickling salt. The cucumbers, you can either purchase these little pickling cucumbers in your supermarket, or if you're a gardener, you can grow them in your own garden. So those are your ingredients. Now I want to show you some different jars that I use to can my pickles. You can use a large jar, or you can use a little medium jar. The jar that I prefer is actually a jam jar, and the reason why is these pickles make the greatest gift, and you don't want to be giving people big jars of pickles, so you just give them a little jar and it's fantastic. Some of the special equipment that you'll be using is a mandolin, and the mandolin is so perfect because it will slice your pickles as thin as you want them. I do a 1/4 of an inch thickness. You'll also want, it's a glove that has a wire mesh inside. This way, as you're moving the cucumber on your mandolin, you're not going to cut your fingers. A couple other tools is you'll want a jar grabber, and this is so that you can grab your jars out of your boiling water. And then this little wand has a magnet on the end where you can reach into the boiling water and get your lids, your canning lids out without burning yourself. Also, you'll need a tall enough pot to hold boiling water. You want the water to be taller than your jar. And then this little rack goes in the bottom so your jar is not touching the heat source directly. I forgot one other piece of equipment that I use when I jar my jams, and it's a handy little big wide mouth funnel, and it actually sits on different sizes of jars. And what this does is it allows you to put your ingredient in there without spilling it around the edge, because you always want to keep the outside ring very clean, and if you do get anything on it, you'll want to make sure that you wipe it off. Back in the old days, your grandmothers possibly used what was called a crock when they made their pickles. It's a ceramic jar container that they used to, some churned butter in it, some made pickles in it. It was very thick and ceramic. This way they could actually store it outside in the colder weather, and it would work the same way as a refrigerator and keep the pickles cool. I prefer just to use something that's common in my kitchen, a large mixing bowl. The last piece of equipment that you'll need is a Dutch oven. I prefer a Dutch oven because when you're boiling sugar, the vinegar, you don't want to have it in just a saucepan for it to boil over. This holds the heat in there, so when you turn it off, it'll continue to cook your pickles just a little bit longer. You'll want to make sure that you wash your pickling cucumbers first, and then chop the ends off. And I save these for my chickens. They love the little treat. And then with your gloved hand and your mandolin set at 1/4 inch, you'll run your cucumber over the sharp edge of the mandolin. This is what a 1/4 inch looks like. It's a perfect thickness for your pickle. You don't want to do them too thin because when they're submerged in the boiling water, if they're too thin, then they won't stay crisp. You need it thick enough so that overnight, while it's sitting in the water, it'll still stay crisp. So you always want to make sure you have your glove on, and then you just run your cucumber over the mandolin until you get to the end. I have all the pickles now sliced, and I've got them in a bowl ready to go. Now I'm going to slice my onion. The pickles were a 1/4 inch. We're going to make the onion about 1/8 inch or as low as your mandolin will go. And you just want to, again, carefully slide your onion over the mandolin, and then you'll have your slices here. We'll just go ahead and put those in a bowl. Now, this is one of my favorite parts because I love to layer foods. You're going to take some pickles and then a thin layer of your onions and then some of your pickling salt and just layer it like that until you've used all of your pickling cucumbers and your onions. And don't worry about using too much salt because tomorrow we actually drain the pickle. After you've completed your last layers of your pickling cucumbers, onions, and salt, you will take some crushed ice, and we're going to put this over the top. What the ice will do is in the refrigerator, it's going to slowly melt, and this is going to keep those pickling cucumbers nice and cold and crisp, because the pickling salt is actually drawing some of the liquid out of the cucumbers. That way, when we boil them, we're infusing all the wonderful flavors. This is what it looks like once you've put all of your crushed ice on top. Now you'll either want to cover this with a lid or with plastic wrap. Don't use foil because you're using salt, and it will get some tin flavors if you have any of the salt touching the aluminum foil. This will go in the refrigerator overnight. We want the salt to draw out as much liquid as it can from both the onions and the pickling cucumbers. All of the spices and the minced black garlic we have put in a plastic bag, or you can wait until tomorrow to actually measure those out. It's the next day and we are ready to actually pickle and jar our pickles. I've got the water boiling, and I did put that little rack in the bottom of the pan that I showed you. We're going to drop in the lids first, and then very carefully put your jars in. And again, I'm using the small jars because I give them as gifts. And you want to make sure, if you'll come and look, you'll want to make sure that your jars are all the way in the water because you want every part of them to be sanitized. We're going to set this for 15 minutes and then we'll take them out. Our pickles have been in the refrigerator overnight, and as you can tell, all that crushed ice that we put in there has melted. We're going to take a colander and strain the pickles and the onions. Now you don't need to rinse your pickles because a lot of it just came out in the water, and the little bit of salt that'll be left on them will be fine. If you have any ice remaining, you'll want to make sure that you pick that out. But other than that, we're going to leave this for about 15 minutes while our jars are boiling to go ahead and drain. While we've got our jars sanitizing and our pickles draining, we've got our mixture here in the pot, and we're going to bring it to a boil, except for the minced black garlic. You want to stir it occasionally. What we're trying to do is get the sugar to dissolve into that vinegar. You don't want any graininess. Our jars have been boiling for 15 minutes. We're going to use our jar picker-upper thing and slowly and carefully remove the jars because they're very hot. And we'll just place them on a towel. Now we use the little magnetic magic wand, and we're going to pull the lids out. You want to make sure that you match them up. You don't want to touch them with your fingers because it'll defeat the whole purpose of sterilizing them, but you can use a paper towel. Our pickling mixture is at a boil. We're going to add our minced black garlic. We're going to add our cucumbers and onions that we had draining. Now these are cold, so you'll want to bring your mixture back up to a boil. And as you'll notice, the liquid does not cover the pickles. So you will want to stir this and make sure that the mixture gets onto all of the cucumbers so that they'll all turn a darker color. Right now you'll see that they're a very light color, and with the turmeric in there, you'll start to see them change color, especially once they come to a boil. Our mixture has come to a boil, and as you can see, we've got some light ones and we've got some pickles now that are starting to turn into pickles, and they're starting to get to be a color. Now you don't want to go too much further than this because your pickles will get soggy and mushy. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off now. And as it sits in this hot pickling liquid, it's going to continue to cook. So what you'll do is you're going to use a spoon, a slotted spoon, and very carefully you're going to go ahead and put your pickles in your jars. Now I fill my jar up, and then you tap the jar down because you want to really get the pickles compacted in there, but you don't want to push on them and really pack them in there. You want them to naturally pack. So I fill them up to the bottom line here because when I put my pickling juice in there, I want enough room to have a little bit of air, but then I want to make sure that the pickles are actually covered in the liquid. We have all of our pickles in our jars, and now you'll take a soup ladle. You're just going to take some of the pickling mixture and pour it in over your pickles. Now you don't want to go past the line here. This is as high up as you want to go with your juice because you do need a little bit of air there. And as you noticed, we did not have the liquid covering the pickles while we were boiling them, but we'll have plenty because it's only taking up the space in the jar. So we will have plenty of liquid. And you can see how dark my liquid is. It's because the black garlic has actually dissolved, which is good. And at this point, if you want to add and mince up a little more black garlic, feel free to. Now I do take a damp paper towel and just run it around the rim just in case I've got any little stickiness. People actually, for Christmas gifts, bring me a case of jam jars because they know that I make jam all the time. And so they bring them to me. You can use your jars again if you sterilize them in the water. Never use your lids again. They do sell just the lids in the store. And the reason why is because you don't know how long it's been in the refrigerator. If it's broken its seal, it's got a little gummy rubber seal here. If it breaks the seal or is damaged in any way, it won't seal properly, and that's just an excuse for bacteria to come and grow. We don't want that. All right, we're going to use our picker-upper again. If your water has evaporated a little bit, you'll want to go ahead and add more water and bring it back up to a boil before you put your jars in. You want to make sure that the water covers the jar at least an inch. That way you know that everything is actually getting boiled. Okay, we're going to go ahead and let this come to a boil, then set our timer for 15 minutes. You want it to come to a boil though because everything has cooled the water down now. You want to make sure that you really boil it for 15 minutes. Our timer has gone off, so we have been boiling our jars for 15 minutes, and we're going to take them out and put them on a towel. What we're listening for now, this can either happen right away or it could be all the way up to 10 minutes. We're going to listen for a definite pop in the lid. And if we can catch that while we're videoing, we will. You always want to make sure that your lid has popped. Now, if you're not around it and you don't hear it, I'll show you the way you can test it. If it does not pop, that means it did not seal, and you'll either want to go back to boiling it again, or you can put it in the refrigerator and it'll pop. Now, right now, if you can hear that or see that lid giving, there, that one just popped. Normally it'll pop on its own, but I happen to press on it. And now it won't give. This one, you can still hear it. It's giving. So we're gonna go, that one just popped. That's the noise you're looking for. And once it's popped, you can't press and it won't give like this one. Now these give a few minutes and they will pop. Now what you wanna do after you've heard them all pop is you just wanna go and make sure that the lids are tightly sealed. And while you're there, take your dish towel and wipe off the jars, because I've made labels, and the label has Ramona's Bread and Butter Pickles with Texas Black Gold Garlic. And when you're giving these as gifts, you want to make sure that you label your items so that everyone knows that you made it, and it makes a special gift. I'm so excited that we had this time to share together to prepare my black gold garlic bread and butter pickles that are going to be released in my cookbook, Black Gold Garlic Recipes by Ramona. And if you look below, you'll see the actual recipe. Now I have a favor to ask of you. If you try this recipe, if you would take a picture and post a comment on how you liked it, I'd really appreciate it.